Perek Yud Ches, we're holding in the middle of the Perek. Actually, we're holding more towards the beginning of the Perek. Last week we spoke about Machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel at great length about whether the Shamayim was created first or the Eretz was created first. If Hashem created the land or the heavens first. We spoke about great length about Machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel in general, and I mentioned last week that Rabbi Yomi Izmir is Pirush V'loi Oid Ella over here in Pirkei Eliezer has 12 explanations of what the root of the dispute between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is over here, whether the Shamayim was created first, the Eretz was created first. But we're not going to get into that, and if it's a very interesting thing to look at, the 12 explanations of Rabbi Yomi Izmir, we're not going to get into that. We're going to start today from the inyan of Shabbos. As you probably are aware, in our shiurim on Pirkei Eliezer, since the beginning we've been basically following the order of the creation of the world from the beginning of the 6 days of creation, and now we're up to the 7th day of creation of that Shabbos. Fine. So we're up to the word Shenamar. It says Shenamar, or the Radal takes out the word Shenamar. It says maybe it's supposed to say Nemar. It says in the pasuk in Parshas Bereishis at the end of the 6th day, it says Vayichulu Hashemayim ve'oretz v'chol tzuam. And Hashem finished the Shamayim v'oretz v'chol tzuam. Hashem finished the heavens and the earth and all the legions. So the word finish is a very interesting word, because the word finish can have two connotations. You can use the word finish to mean like when you're creating something and you finished creating it, so that's finished. Vayichulu, it's finished. Or you can say the exact opposite. When you're trying to destroy something and you finished off the last piece, it's completely destroyed, so you finished it off. It's finished, it's gone. Like for example, when I was growing up, there was a famous video game called Mortal Kombat. So in this game, there was you had like a little character and you're supposed to fight a different guy, and when the other guy's health points get down so low that like he's about to get killed, so there's like a voice that calls out and says, "Finish him!" So finish can not just mean finish creating something, but finish can also mean finish destroying something. So the Medrash says like this: it says Vayichulu Hashem ve'oretz v'chol tzuam. That means that Hashem finished creating it. The Medrash is going to say that maybe we should understand it in the way that it means Hashem finished destroying the Shamayim v'oretz. And it says it like this: Did the heavens and the earth stop existing and finish from being existing altogether? It doesn't exist anymore. Doesn't it say Aleihem? Doesn't it say about them in the pasuk in Yirmiyah? It says Hashem said, "I fill up the heavens and the earth." We're going to see a little bit. We're going to see this pasuk again later on in a few minutes. But Hashem says, "I fill up the heavens and the earth." So we see that the heavens and the earth still exist. So how can it say Vayichulu that it was finished off? It was like as if it was destroyed. So what's the meaning? It says the Midrash, what does that mean that Hashem finished? Hashem finished the melacha, the work, the creative work needed to create the world. The actions needed to create the world. The tzivui, the commandments Hashem used to create the world. As we say in Tilim, it says Hu tziva v'nivro. Hashem commanded and things were automatically created. The command of Hashem, by word of Hashem, the world was created. So these three things, the malacha, creative work, the actions, and the commandments, that's what Hashem finished. That's what He finished. That's why it says in the pasuk, and He finished the Shamayim v'oretz. But not that Hashem actually destroyed the world, it means He finished creating it. This is the way I understood the Medrash. The Radal has a slightly different way of understanding it, because it's slightly difficult to understand that the Medrash misunderstood that the word Vayichulu, which means finished, it thought it meant finished being destroyed, but really it meant finished being created. What's happening over here? So the Radal explains that what the Medrash was thinking wasn't that Hashem destroyed the world. Rather, that Vayichulu means that Hashem's, let's say, influence in the world stopped. It was finished. Chas v'shalom to say such a thing. We know that Hashem has Hashkacha Pratis and Hashkacha Klolis, that Hashem oversees the world in both a general way and in a detailed way. But the Medrash that Vayichulu means that Hashem finished, he stopped intervening in the world. Chas v'shalom to say such, but that's the Medrash thought, you might say that. And then he says, no, it finished meaning, not that he finished intervening in the world, in seeing how everything plays out, but it finished intervening in the creation of the world. Now the world is created, now he finished the creation. But Amr Yisrael, Klal Yisrael said, and this is a very interesting Medrash. It's sort of difficult to see what's happening here. Amr Yisrael, Klal Yisrael said, Amr Yisrael l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Klal Yisrael said in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono kol ha'olamim, Master of the universes, Hashemayim v'ha'aretz kilisa min melacha mipoel umitzivui b'sheishes me'abreshis. The heavens and the earth, you finished with the creative work and the actions and the commandments in the 6 days of creation. However, rachamecha v'chasadecha al tichla, but your mercy and your kindness, that should never finish. So you finished creating the world, but don't finish giving us mercy and kindness. Shem tichla, who said anything about mercy? Like, what do the two things have to do with each other? So Hashem was creating the world, and then it says, but don't stop your mercy and your kindness. I know. And they said, because if you finished your kindness and your mercy, we won't be able to stand. Because the world stands on your mercy and on your kindness. As it says in the pasuk, because the mountains can be moved or removed, but my kindness to you will never be removed. That's the end of the pasuk. And the covenant of my peace with you will never be moved. Hashem. So says the one who has mercy upon you, Hashem. So what's happening exactly over here? So the way the Radal understands it is that they were saying that the way the world works is that people evidently are bound to be doing averas. It's impossible for a person to live in this world without doing an avera. So they're telling Hashem that even though you stopped creating new things in the world, but we still need your constant flow of kindness and mercy in order for the world to continue to exist. That's the Pashut Avon of the Medrash. Rabbi Yomi Israel has a little bit slightly different pshat. I don't want to get into it, but he asked the question: why does it say that? They said, if you stop your mercy and your kindness, we can't stand. So it should say even better. It should say the world cannot stand, not just that we can't stand. The whole world can't stand. Okay, but that's basically the idea over here in the Medrash. But let's go to the next thing. It says that Hashem finished on the 7th day. Shava chinuchos bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem created 7 things which require inauguration. Sheish mehen chinech v'achas shmur l'dayros. Hashem inaugurated 6 of them, and 1 of them is saved for the future generations, and then Hashem is going to, so to speak, inaugurate it. What are we talking about? Bara Yom Rishon, Hashem created the first day, or He created that which He was created on the first day. And He inaugurated it. And He finished all the work done on that day. The Radal switches it. He says, first He finished all the work, and then He inaugurated it. Shnamar, as it says in the pasuk, at the end of the first day of creation, it says what Hashem created, and then it says, it was evening, and it was morning, the first day 1, or the first day. So Hashem first said what was created the first day, and then it says it was morning, first day. That's the inauguration. The Chaf Kol Yemei Hamayis said, all the 6 days of creation, it said what Hashem created each day, and at the end of each day it said Vayerev Vayivaker Yom, whatever the number is, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Yom Revi, etc. However, right, the last day Hashem it says Vayichal Ekim Yom Hashvi, etc. And then at the end of the 6th day it says Vayerev Vayivaker Yom Hashishi. It was the 6th day, and then Hashem stopped. Bara Yom Shvi, on the Hashem created the 7th day. It didn't say what Hashem created on the seventh day. It doesn't say that Hashem created anything. And it doesn't say about the seventh day of creation, and it was evening and it was morning. Why not? Why doesn't it say about the seventh day, just like it says it about the other days of the week? So Medrash says, because the completion of the seventh day is saved for the future generations. Hashem is keeping it for later. We're only going to realize the full tachlis, the full purpose of Shabbos in the future when Mashiach comes. Shenama, as it says in the pasuk, v'haya yom echad, there will be a day who yivad ala Hashem, it's known to Hashem, lo yom v'lo layla, it's neither day nor night. And the Medrash is understanding, it's a pasuk in Zechariah, the Medrash is understanding that pasuk that says that there's a certain day that's neither day nor night is referring to Shabbos. Because by Shabbos it doesn't say Vayhi Erev Vayhi. It doesn't say, oh, there was day, there was night, it's Shabbos, it's the seventh day. It doesn't say that about Shabbos. Why? Because it's for the future. There's a certain day that's known to Hashem in the future where it's going to say Vayhi Erev Vayhi. But as far as it is right now, it's Lo Yom V'Lo Layla. It's neither day nor night. This pasuk is brought down in other contexts to refer specifically to the times of Mashiach, which we call it a day which is neither day nor night. They say that in the times of Mashiach, so the Avera that caused the moon to be made small, the sin that made the moon smaller, is going to have it's going to be fixed. There's going to be a tikkun for the moon, and the moon is going to be restored to its original size. And the sun is going to be so big and so powerful that it's going to be Shiva Sayim. Shiva Sayim means, according to many explanations, it means 49 times its strength. So the night is going to be as bright as the day, and the day is going to be 49 times brighter than it is now. That's what's going to be in the future when Mashiach comes. And there's a Rashash in the Medrash Rabbah, I forgot exactly where, the Rashash says that the night that Mashiach comes is going to come at night. It's going to be a night that's going to be like day, because it's going to be sunny outside, because the moon is going to be as big as the sun. There's going to be daylight, but it's going to be night. That's what it means that Yom Echad Yivad al Hashem Lo Yom V'Lo Layla. That Shabbos, that's the fruition of Shabbos. That's the completion of Shabbos, because Yemais Mashiach or Olam Habah, that is the point of Shabbos. Like we say in Zmiros, in Leil Shabbos, we say Me'ein Olam Habah Yom Shabbos Menucha. What is Me'ein Olam Habah? Let's say a fraction of Olam Habah. Yom Shabbos Menucha. Yom Shabbos Menucha is a taste of what Olam Habah is. The Gemara in Brachos in the last parak says the Shabbos is 1/60th of Olam Habah. Mepharshim say dafka 1/60th, because if it was less than 1/60th, then it would be bottle and you wouldn't even be able to taste anything. But it's 1/60th, so that when you taste Shabbos, you could sort of taste Olam Habah. And when we talk about the Shir Shel Yom for Shabbos, so by the Shir Shel Yom of Shabbos, we say Mizmor Shel Shabbos, Mizmor Shel La'asad Lavoi L'Yom Shekul Shabbos Menucha L'Chaya Elohim. That's what Shabbos is. Yom Shekul Toiv. And that is completely good. So that realization of the completion of Shabbos is only going to come about in the end of days. But when we're talking about Hashem creating the world, it doesn't say Vayhi Erev Vayhi Vayker Yom HaShvi'i or Yom Shvi'i. That's left for the future. What's the Indian of Shabbos comparable to? To a person who had a desirable vessel. And he did not want to bequeath this desirable vessel to anybody except for his son who serves him. He specifically wants his son to inherit this desirable vessel and nobody else. So Shabbos is what the Medrash is saying, that Shabbos is a desirable vessel, a kli chemda, a desirable vessel, and Hashem dafka wanted to give it, and specifically wanted to give it to the Jews and to nobody else. The day of Shabbos, the rest and the holiness which was in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or the Radal brings the Gers of the Minar Sama'ar, Yom Shabbos Bracha Kedusha Shelafanav, the blessing and the holiness that was in front of Kadosh Baruch Hu, L'rotz L'hanchilai Ela Yisrael. He only wanted to bequeath it as an inheritance to Klal Yisrael and to nobody else. So Shabbos is called a Kli Chemda, a desirable vessel. So what does it mean Shabbos is a Kli Chemda? The Radal brings that the Mesechus Avos, the Mishnah calls the Torah Kli Chemda. The Torah is a desirable vessel. But here we're calling Shabbos is Dafka Kli Chemda. In fact, if you look in davening on Shabbos, so we say on Shabbos, in Shemona Esrei, we say, Yisruchu v'malchuscha, Hashem Shabbos v'kor yo'enig, Amikad she'shivi, Kulam yisbel v'yisangum v'tova v'ashir, Tzitzav v'gitashtei, Chemdas yomim ma'isei karasa. You call Shabbos Chemdas Yomim. Chemdas Yomim ma'isei karasa. You call it Chemdas Yomim, the desirable of the days. Why is Shabbos called Chemdas Yomim, the desirable of the days? So this question is asked by a lot of Mefarshim. I seem to remember I found a few different explanations for it, but I couldn't find them. The only thing I was able to find right now in my notes was that Rashi himself talks about this. Rashi has a sefer called Isser V'Heter L'Rashi, which is more or less an explanation. Parts of it is an explanation to the Siddur. So in Isser V'Heter L'Rashi in Siman Nun Ches, Rashi says that if you look in the Targum on the pasuk of Vayichal Elikim Bayom Shvi, that Hashem finished on the seventh day, it translates the word Vayichal as V'Chamid. Hashem desired the seventh day, not Hashem finished the seventh day or have finished on the seventh day, but Hashem desired the seventh day. The seventh day, Shabbos is Chemdas Yomim, is the desirable of the days. That's the day that everyone desires. Everyone is looking for Shabbos. They all want Shabbos. I wanted to compare this to another medrash. The Chazal tell us. I'm not sure if you could compare this or not. Maybe this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but maybe it does. The medrash says that every day of the week has a zivug. It has its match. It has its spouse. It's married to something else. The only day of the week that doesn't have a zivug is Shabbos. What does that mean? So the Pashut explanation is, let's count the days of the week. You have Sunday and Monday. So Sunday and Monday, they're a pair, because there's a time where Sunday and Monday are joined together. When you're talking about Sunday night, Bein Shmashos, before it becomes Monday, so you have Sunday, Monday. Then you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Shabbos is left on its own. So Shabbos is a day that doesn't have a zivug. It doesn't have a partner. Or another way of explaining it, this is the way the Vilna Gaon explains it. It says that every day of the week, that when Hashem created things on that day of the week, so it has a corresponding day of the week that Hashem created similar things on that day of the week. For example, Sunday Hashem created light and darkness, and on Wednesday Hashem created the sun and the moon. So Sunday and Wednesday go together. Monday Hashem created the firmament to divide between the upper waters and the lower waters. On Thursday, Hashem created the fish and the birds, which come from the upper waters and the lower waters. So Monday and Thursday go together. In that kasher between Monday and Thursday, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu was besaken to read the Torah on Dafka on Mondays and Thursdays, and Beis Din used to convene Dafka on Monday and Thursdays. That's why we have long Tachnun on Monday and Thursdays. So Monday and Thursday goes together. Tuesday, Hashem created the ground, the earth, and the flora. And then on Friday goes together with Tuesday, because Hashem created the animals on Friday, the animals that live on the earth and they eat the floor, etc. So you have Sunday and Wednesday, Monday and Thursday, Tuesday and Friday all go together. What about Shabbos? So Shabbos doesn't have a day that goes with it, because Shabbos is a day that's ein lo zivug. It doesn't have its match. And then the Medrash, I believe, says that Hashem said, "Oh, Shabbos doesn't have a match. I'm going to give it special to Klal Yisrael." And that's why Shabbos we call Shabbos a kala, Shabbos malchasor. It's like a queen, or it's like a bride. We say l'cha doidi likras kala. It's all part of this idea that Shabbos doesn't have its zivug in the days of the week. So Hashem sort of gave Shabbos over to Klal Yisrael. It's a special thing that Hashem gave over to Klal Yisrael. At this point in the shir on Friday, so Rabbi Epstein asked me a question. He says, "What does it mean that Hashem gave Shabbos to Klal Yisrael?" Now, if I'm giving you a piece of paper, I can give you a paper, But how do you give someone a day of a week? What does that mean? He gave them a day of the week. So the answer is like this. The purpose of a person in the world, it says, I believe in Mishlei, Adam la'amal yulad. A person was born la'amal, to toil. A man was created to work. And that's what Hashem wants from men. Whether the Gemara understands that pasuk is even applying to Jews. The Gemara says, is it talking about toil in learning, or is it talking about toil in the field, or whatever. But the point is that a person is created to work. And we find that during the Mabul, from the time of Noach, so the celestial bodies did not continue on their normal paths. They didn't move around in their normal ways. The movements of the astrology and astronomy, they weren't under normal circumstances. The seasons got all messed up. The summer and the winter, it became one big mishka mabul. So after the mabul, Hashem said to Noach, look, I promise you that from now on, all the seasons are going to be in a specific order, and it won't deviate from that. The nature won't deviate from that. And it says, Yom v'layla lo yishbaisu. The day and the night will never cease to rest. It'll always be day, 12 hours day, 12 hours night, 12 hours day, 12 hours night. That will never stop. The world will never get confused like that. The nature will continue flowing in the same way. 12 hours day, 12 hours night, v'zel. That's the Pashup Shad and Pesukim. Chazal understood that Yom v'layla lo yishbaisu, the day and the night will not rest, is not necessarily talking about the day and the night itself not resting, but it's talking about people. The Gemara says in Masechah Sanhedrin, Goy shishavas chayiv misa. A goy who keeps Shabbos is chayiv misa. Why? Because Hashem expects that a person is always supposed to be working. That's what Hashem wants. Hashem wants a person to always be working on something, making creative work and fixing the world or whatever. That's what Hashem always wants. So a person decides he's going to be lazy, he's going to take off a day, a 24-hour period, that's already a problem. Now the exception to this is what we call Shabbos Kiddush. Shabbos Kiddush is dafka a time when it's usher to work. Hashem doesn't want you to do malacha. Hashem rather wants you to imitate the way of Hashem, that on the seventh day he didn't create anything. 6 days he created, 7th day he didn't create anything. That's the meaning of Shabbos. So when we talk about Hashem giving over Shabbos to Bnei Yisrael, we talk about Hashem saying, Bnei Yisrael, you're special, you're different than all the other nations. The other nations don't have a day of rest during the week. They're supposed to work the entire day, the entire week. You, Klal Yisrael, are special. You have a day off. And in fact, there's a medrash that says in the Tanakh of Eliyahu, it says that when Klal Yisrael was in Mitzrayim, so they tried to take off on Shabbos. When they were working as slaves, they tried to take off Shabbos so that they didn't have to work. And the Egyptians were ridiculing them. What, are you lazy? What's the matter with you? Why aren't you working? You're supposed to work. When you take a day off, well, what do you think this is? They didn't understand that there's such a concept. Because that's what Hashem wanted for the world. Hashem wanted in the world that people should continuously be working. Hashem gave a special present to Bnei Yisrael that they have a day off. But in general, if you look in the world now, let's say the Christians. So the Christians, they have their Sunday off. Where do they get that from? They got that from our Torah. We have off Shabbos, so they decided that they're going to copy us and decided that they're also going to have off Shabbos. And then a few hundred years into Christianity, they decided, they don't want to be exactly like the Jews, so they switched Shabbos to Sunday. So they decided they have Sunday off. But now you see that as the world is becoming more and more secular, and they're forgetting about their let's call it the Judeo-Christian roots, so Saturday and Sunday are increasingly becoming considered work days, like Tuesday and Wednesday. They lost that because now that they're not trying to imitate the Jews anymore, so the default is they're supposed to work every day of the week. That's the Indian of Shabbos. That's what it means that Hashem gave over Shabbos. So the Medrash say that Hashem, just like a man wants to bequeath his son a desirable vessel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu dafka wanted to bequeath to Klal Yisrael the Indian of Shabbos. You should know that such is true, that Shabbos is a special, is a precious, a desirable vessel. from when the Jews went out of Mitzrayim, before Hashem even gave them the Torah, Hashem bequeathed the Shabbos to Klal Yisrael. Right? Chazal tell us that Hashem gave over the Shabbos, the Indian of Shabbos, the mitzvah of Shabbos was given to Klal Yisrael in Mora. Mora is not long after they left Mitzrayim, but before they got the Torah, which was 3 months after they got out of Mitzrayim. So they got Shabbos beforehand because Hashem wanted to give over this present. The Gemara calls it a matana teva yeshli beis genazai. Hashem v'Shabbos shmai. Hashem wanted to give over a special present to Bnei Yisrael. The Shabbos, even before he wanted to give them the Torah. This was so important that Hashem wanted to give it first. Ushtei Shabbos shavsu Yisrael ad shalei nasan lamitzvah. And Klal Yisrael kept 2 Shabbos before Hashem gave them the Torah. Shenamar, as it says in the pasuk. Beginning of the pasuk says, Shabbos kachara hidat lahem. You inform them of your holy Shabbos, and the end of the pasuk says, O mitzvahs v'chukim v'sara tzivisa lahem b'yad Moshe avdacha. And mitzvahs, commandments, v'chukim, and statutes, and Torah, you commanded them through Moshe your servant. So first it says, Shabbos kachara hidat lahem. You inform them of Shabbos, and then it says that you gave them the mitzvahs from Moshe Rabbeinu. That tells us that Hashem Dafu gave Shabbos before He gave us the rest of the Torah. Fine. Now the Medrash is going to have an interesting discussion about it. Kiddush Baruch Hu Shomar v'Kiddush es Shabbos v'Yisrael einan chayav v'nishma l'Kiddush es Shabbos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Himself keeps and sanctifies Shabbos. Hashem keeps Shabbos and He sanctifies Shabbos. And the Jews are not obligated to keep and to sanctify the Shabbos? Of course they are. So that's how you know that the Jews are obligated to keep and to sanctify the Shabbos. What does it mean to keep? We know that Chazal tell us that there's 2 lashonos, there's 2 expressions used in regard to Shabbos observance. In Parshas Yisro, when it's talking about the 10 commandments in Parshas Yisro, it says, Zochar Yisem Shabbos HaKadshay. You should remember the day of Shabbos to sanctify it. And in Parshas V'Eschanan, in this week's Parsha, it says, Shomer Yisem Shabbos HaKadshay. You should watch the Shabbos in order to sanctify it. Shomer, watch it. So what's the difference between remembering and watching? Chazal tell us that watching means mitzvahs leisa says, and remembering means mitzvahs essays. So the way I understand it is like this: when you remember something, you have to remember to do something. Remember to go out and actively go do this thing. So that's the positive aspects of Shabbos, what you're supposed to do for Shabbos. Shamar means to guard. Guard yourself from doing such and such. That's the negative commandments associated with Shabbos. Guard yourself, watch yourself, make sure you don't do that which you're not supposed to do on Shabbos. So we see that Hashem keeps Shabbos, so Klal Yisrael also keeps Shabbos. How do we know that Hashem keeps Shabbos? You should know that this is true, that Hashem keeps Shabbos. How do we know? Come and see. When Hashem gave the man to the Jews for 40 years, Hashem would give him the man all 6 days of 6 days of the week, 6 work days. But on Shabbos, Hashem wouldn't give special man. They didn't have the man on Shabbos. Now, so you see from that Hashem keeps Shabbos. Now the Medrash says maybe you'll say that there's a different reason why Hashem didn't give the man on Shabbos. Maybe you'll say that the reason Hashem didn't give the man on Shabbos is because He didn't have the koyach, didn't have the ability to say such a thing. But maybe you would think that that's the reason, that Hashem didn't have the power to do such a thing. But really, it's not because He keeps Shabbos, but because He lost His power. So the Radal says, no, that's not true, because you see that Hashem would give it every day. Meaning, as the Radal explains, meaning, if you want to say that the reason why Hashem didn't give man on Shabbos is because He lost energy, so why is it that all of a sudden Sunday He was able to give it again? Rather, you have to say, rather, it was Shabbos in front of Him, and that's why He didn't give it on Shabbos. Now the Medrash is going to say another proof that we know that Hashem keeps Shabbos from the fact that there was no man. And therefore Hashem would give them double man on Friday. Shenema, as it says in the pasuk, Ru'u ki Hashem nasan lachem es Shabbos. See that Hashem has given you the Shabbos. Al kein hu nasan lachem bayam shishi lachem yimayim. Therefore, He gives you on Friday double bread, double man. Well, what are you trying to say over here? So the way the Radal explains it, I'm not sure exactly if this is what the Radal is saying, but I think this is the basic idea is that you would have thought that Hashem has, up there in Shemayim, He has a certain amount of reserves of man, and He grants the Jews those reserves of man. And the reason why He didn't give on Shabbos is not because He keeps Shabbos, but because he simply ran out. And by Sunday, He replenished his supplies, so He was able to give again. But Shabbos He ran out, and that's why He didn't give on Shabbos. So to that, the Medrash is saying, no, that's not true, because we see that Hashem gives double on Friday. So giving double on Friday, or giving once on Friday and once on Saturday, is the same thing. So you can't say that the reason why Hashem didn't give on Shabbos is because He ran out. Because if His problem was running out, so then why did He give double on Friday? Rather, you see that the reason why Hashem didn't give one on Shabbos is because Hashem keeps Shabbos. Once the Jews saw that there is Shabbos in front of Hashem, they also rested, they also kept Shabbos. As it says in the pasuk in Parshas B'Shalach, when it's talking about the story of the man, it says, and the nation rested on the seventh day, meaning they also kept Shabbos. Now we briefly mentioned, I believe it was in the previous parak, we spoke about an idea of, does Hashem keep mitzvahs or not? So we know that there's a Gemara in Brachas that says that Hashem puts on tefillin, and there's other Chazals tell us that Hashem, we saw before in the previous prakim, Hashem fulfills the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim, Hashem fulfills the mitzvah of Levayas HaMeis, and Simchas Chosim Nekala. So we see that Hashem does perform, so to speak, K'biyachol, Hashem does do positive commandments. But the question is, does Hashem also keep to negative commandments? Does Hashem refrain from doing that which, let's say, for people is also? So I don't remember if I mentioned this when we first spoke about this, but the Das Zekanim in Parshas B'Shalach sort of asks this question. In Parshas B'Shalach, Hashem says, right before the story of the Kriyas Yamsuf, Hashem says to Bnei Yisrael that they should v'yachnu lefnei piach chirayis lefnei bal tzafayim nechal sachnu al yom, that they should encamp by piach chirayis right in front of Baal Tzafayim, in front of this idol called Baal Tzafayim. There was an idol over there called Baal Tzafayim. Hashem told the Jews to encamp right there next to this Baal Tzafayim idol. The question is that there's the Gemara Mesachas Sanhedrin, Daf Samech Gimel Amud Beis, that says that you're not allowed to mention the name of an Avodah Zarah as a place mark. You're not allowed to say, meet me next to such and such Avodah Zarah. So the Das Zekanim, Balei Tesis, in Parashat B'Shalach, they ask, how could Hashem tell the Jews, meet me, encamp next to Baal Tzafayim? You're not allowed to mention the name of an Avodah Zarah to give someone as a place mark. So how could Hashem say the name? So the Das Zekanim answers two answers. First is the classical answer. It's before Matan Torah. Before Matan Torah, you can't judge things based on the halachas that we have to what happened before Matan Torah. So before Matan Torah, you can't bring any proofs. The second answer is Hashem is mitzvah ve'enem mitzvah. Hashem commands, but He Himself is not commanded. So He told the Jews to keep Shabbos, or He told the Jews not to mention names of Avodah Zarah as a place mark, but He Himself doesn't necessarily have to keep Shabbos. So He Himself doesn't have to necessarily not mention names of Avodah Zarah as a place mark. That's what it seems like from the Das Zekanim. This is a big question. A lot of Mefarshim speak about this in a lot of different contexts. One question they ask is that the Gemara Bava Basra says that Kiddush Baruch Hu castrated the male of Yosin. So the question is, how could He castrate the male of Yosin? It's also to castrate an animal. So if you understand that Hashem is bound by negative commandments, so then it's a question. And you have to give answers. They give answers. Maybe a fish is different. Maybe Hashem didn't do it with an action, so then it's okay. But if you understand that Hashem is not bound by negative commandments, the whole question goes out the window. A similar thing they ask. Okay, there's a famous word from the Kiddush Levi, the Berditchever. He asks, when you have a Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah that falls out on Shabbos, So we know that when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbos, we don't blow shofar. So yes, I don't understand. How can we not blow shofar? We need the shofar in order to merit victory in the din that Hashem has, a judgment on Rosh Hashanah. We use the shofar in order to be victorious, to have a good verdict. That's why the rest of every other year you blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. So why is it that when Shabbos falls on Shabbos, then you don't need the shofar? How are you going to be victorious in the din? So the Kiddush Friday says that the answer is that when Shabbos falls out on when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, so it's also for Hashem to write. So writing is going to be forbidden. So when Hashem writes His judgment on Rosh Hashanah that falls out on Shabbos, He's only going to write a good judgment, because that's all you're allowed to write, because it's pikuach nefesh. But a bad judgment is not pikuach nefesh; it's the opposite of pikuach nefesh. So Hashem's not allowed to write it. So then we don't need the shofar to help us be mezakeh in the din on Rosh Hashanah. Alright, there's an obvious question that it's also to write on Rosh Hashanah. But that's the word from the Barditcher. So you see, he understood that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is also bound by Yisurim. He's not allowed to write on Shabbos. There's another word they say from the Rebbe Reb Heschel in Chanukah Torah in Parshas Yisrei. He brings a medrash that says that Klal Yisrael only eats in Olam Habah in the schus of emunah in Hashem. So he says, why dafka in that mitzvah and not in other mitzvahs? He asks another question. The Rebbe Reb Heschel. It says in the pasuk, Chazal tell us that schar mitzvahs b'hai alma leka. There's no retribution for mitzvahs in this world. Whatever schar you deserve for mitzvah, performing mitzvahs in this world, Hashem only gives you the reward in Olam Habah, not in this world. So the question is that there's an isser that when you hire a day worker, so you're supposed to give him the money that day. You're not allowed to leave it overnight, his wages. You have to give him his wages on that day. You have to give his wages. So the question is, how could a Kadosh Baruch Hu delay giving the Jews their reward for the mitzvahs? That you don't get your reward in this world, you get it in the next world. How can Hashem do that? It's also to delay the wages of a worker. So there's a lot of different answers to this question. If I'm not mistaken, the Yisbach Moshe in Parshas Matos talks about it. But the Rebbe Reb Heschel says an answer like this. He says that the halacha is that when you have a shliach that they hired the day worker for you, so then neither the person who sent the shliach nor the shliach himself is responsible for paying for the wages dafka on that day. So there's a technicality why neither because the worker can the guy who hired the guy who told the agent to hire the day worker will say, no, I didn't hire you, the agent will hire you, and the agent will say, I'm not the one that hired you, the Balabayas is the one that hired you. So neither one is going to be held responsible for this isser. But if you yourself hire the day worker, then you're responsible to give him his wages on that day. So the Rebbe Reb Heschel says that this is the pshat in the two questions. This is the answer to the two questions. Because on the one hand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't tell us all the mitzvahs. Really, Moshe Rabbeinu said all the mitzvahs. Like we spoke about in Parak Mem Aleph. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said the mitzvahs to Klal Yisrael. Except for the first two mitzvahs, V'anochi and Lo Yeh Lecha, the mitzvahs of Emunah. So when we're talking about the mitzvahs of Emunah, so Hashem directly gave us those mitzvahs. So therefore, the schar that we get for those mitzvahs, Hashem will pay us back for the reward in this world, because He hired us and He's obligated to give. On the other hand, when we're talking about all the other mitzvahs, so those were given to us through a medium, through Moshe Rabbeinu. So there, it's comparable to a case of a man who got an agent to hire a day worker. Then neither the agent nor the man himself are obligated to necessarily give the wages dafka on that day. So there Hashem can wait, in those mitzvahs, Hashem can wait till Olam Habah to give us the reward. Alright. I just wanted to mention two more midrashim that speak about this concept of a Kiddush Baruch Hu keeping Shabbos. The first one is Bereshis Rabbah, Parsha Yud Aleph, Siman Hey. Says in the Medrash, Turnus Rufus Harasha Charles Rabbi Kiva. Turnus Rufus, he was the Roman governor in Eretz Yisrael. He was a Rasha. He asked Rabbi Kiva the following question: Omar, ma yomei amayin? Why this day than other days? He didn't explain himself. Amalei, Rabbi Kiva said to him, Ma gvar miguvrin? Why this man from other men? How does that answer the question? What's the answer over here? What's he saying? Omar, Turnus Rufus said, Ma amris lach or ma amart li? He said, what did I say to you and what did you say back to me? Amalei, Rabbi Kiva said to him, Amart li, you said to me, Ma yomei amayin? Why this day than other days? Meaning, Ma ishna yoma de Shabbos mikol yoma? Why is Shabbos different than all other days? And I said to you, Uman gvar miguvrin? Why this man? Who's this man over other men? Meaning, Maishna Turnus Rufus mikol guvrin? What made Turnus Rufus special from all other people? Turnus Rufus was the governor of the Roman province of Judea, and Rabbi Kiva is saying to him, you asked me why is Shabbos different than all the days of the week, and I'm telling you, why is Turnus Rufus different than all other men? Why are you the king, the governor, and not someone else? Amalei, Turnus Rufus said to him, why am I the governor of Judea? Because the king, the emperor of Rome, he wanted to give me honor, so he made me the governor here. Amalei, so Rabbi Kiva said to him, so too, this day, Shabbos, why is Shabbos different than all the days? Because the king, Hashem, wanted to give it covet. So that's why Shabbos is different. Amalei, where are you going to tell me? How are you going to prove to me that Hashem wants to give covet to Shabbos? Where do we see in the nature that Hashem wants to give covet to Shabbos? Where do we see it out in the open? Amalei, Harei Nahar Sambatyon Yechiach. Well, the Sambatyon river shall prove it. Why? Because all throughout the week, the Sambatyon river pulls rocks. But on Shabbos, the Sambatyon river rests. So that proves that from nature that Shabbos is something special that Hashem wants to give cover to. Amalei, so Turnus Rufus said to him, now you're pulling my leg. You're fooling me. How do I know that this is true at all? So Amalei, Rabbi Kiva said to him, I'm going to give you another proof. A person who can recall the dead, a necromancer will prove it. Why? What's the word I'm looking for? Necromancer, yeah? A guy who can make a seance and call people from the dead. It's called necromancy. Am I right? I think so. A person who can recall people from the dead, he can bring them up every day of the week, except on Shabbos he can't bring them up. And so Rabbi Kiva tells him, this, you can go out and test it. Go check with your father and see if it's true. So that guy, Turnus Rufus, Chad Zman Tzarech, Uvdak Bavui, Uslak Kol Yom de Shabso. Turnus Rufus went out and he tried to use a seance to call his dead father, and every day of the week he was able to recall his father. But when he tried to summon his father on Shabbos, he wasn't able to summon his father. So the next day, he tried it again on Sunday after Shabbos. He tried to summon his father, and his father came. So he said to his father, Abba, min demisas is avidus Yehudi. Once he died, he said, Daddy, when you died, you became Jewish. You don't come back to this world when we use our necromancy on Shabbos. You became Jewish. What's the matter with you? I'm astonished. Why is it that all days of the week you could come up, and on Shabbos you wouldn't be able to come up? Through the necromancy. So Turnus Rufus' father said to him, every person who doesn't keep Shabbos willingly in the living world can, in the world of the dead, he's forced to keep Shabbos. Which is an interesting thing, because why should a guy be chayav to keep Shabbos? So if he didn't keep it in this world, so when he dies, who cares? I don't know. But he's saying a very interesting idea. that whoever doesn't keep Shabbos in this world, when he gets to the world of the dead, he will be forced to keep Shabbos. And therefore, when they summon him through necromancy, he won't be able to come back. Amalai, what do you mean he has to keep Shabbos? V'chi amal yesh lachem shatem amelim kol yimei Shabbos or Shabbos in atem noichin. Are you working over there in the world of the dead? He's probably in Gehenna. So over there in Gehenna, you're working. That the whole week you're working, and on Shabbos you're not working. You're resting. That you're forced to keep Shabbos. What does it mean that you're keeping Shabbos in that world? Amaloi, he says, kol yimei Shabbos anu nidainin. Every day of the week we're having hard judgments and justice, and Hashem is giving us punishments. But on Shabbos we're getting rest. As we know, Chazal tell us that on Shabbos the people who are in Gehenna get taken out of Gehenna. So this is the interaction between Turnus Rufus and his dead father. So he saw from that Shabbos really is something special in the world. That in the nature of the world, Hashem made it that dead people can't come back out on Shabbos. He went back to Rabbi Kiva. He said to him, if it's true, like you say, that Kiddush Baruch Hu, that God honors Shabbos, so then the wind shouldn't blow on Shabbos. The rain shouldn't come down on Shabbos. The grass shouldn't grow on Shabbos. How could all these things happen if Hashem keeps Shabbos? Rabbi Kiva said to him, the spirit of that man of you should blow up. You don't know what you're talking about. Let me give you a parable. Two people who are living in one courtyard. If this one doesn't make an Erev and this one doesn't make an Erev, is it going to be mutter for them to move things in their joint courtyard? Of course not. When you have two people that have a joint courtyard, the halach is you need to make an Erev Chaitzeres in order to carry in there, because it's neither this guy's rishus nor this guy's rishus. It's both of those rishus, so it's comparable to a rishus rabbim in some ways. So you need an Erev Chaitzeres. If there was one person living in the courtyard, it was all his. All of it is mutter. He's mutter to carry in the entire courtyard because nothing belongs to him. So what's the problem? So since there's no other deity besides the Kiddush Baruch Hu, and everything in the world belongs to him, it's mutter for Hashem to move around everything from everywhere in the world. So the wind can go from the place of the wind to where Hashem wants it. The rain can go from its place in Shemayim to where Hashem wants it to fall. The grass can grow. All these things can happen because everything is all part of Hashem's courtyard, and Hashem decides exactly how everything is supposed to go. It's all in His rishus. When Kiva finishes off, he says, the people who ate man testify about Hashem. All days of the week, the man would come down, and on Shabbos, the man wouldn't come down. So you see, Hashem keeps Shabbos. You asked about the rain and the wind, those things, that's a technicality that Hashem can make it happen, because it's all part of His rishus. It's not a problem of Hitzah. It's not a problem of Hitzah on Shabbos. I don't know if this medrash necessarily means that Hashem actually keeps Shabbos, or the medrash just means to say that Hashem is mechabed Shabbos. You see, Hashem treats Shabbos differently, so we should treat it differently.
Says that He rested.
What?
Says He rested.
But what about the Geshamim and the Esev, all these things? So it's okay, it's his rishos. It's his chotzer. Okay. It could be that's pshat. There's a similar medrash, this one's a little bit shorter. In Shmais Rabbah, Parsha Lamed, Siman Tes. Over there it says another story. Meiser Bar Gamliel, Rabbi Shul, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Nazariah, Rabbi Kiva. These great rabbis, Sheholchu l'Romi. They went to Rome to give drashas over there to the Jewish community in Rome. V'darshu sham, and they darshan over there, and they said, Ein drachav shel Kadosh Baruch Hu kibasar v'dam. The ways of Hashem are not like the ways of humans. Why? Shuhu gezer gzera, v'hu oimer l'acherem l'asais, v'hu einei yisiklum. A human leader, a human ruler, will make a decree. He will decree a decree, and he'll tell other people to keep to that decree, and he himself will not keep to the decree. But Kadosh Baruch Hu came, but Hashem is not so. Hashem tells people what to do, and he himself does it. So the Medrash says, Hayusha min echad. There was a certain a person who was a sectarian. Maybe he was a Christian or something like that. There was a certain person, a heretic. When all these rabbis went out from the drasha, Amar Lahem, he said to the rabbis, "Ein divrechem el kozach." Whatever you said it's falsehoods. Lo yamartem elikim omer va'isa. Did you not say that Hashem says and does? If that's true, lama ina mishamres Shabbos. Why doesn't Hashem keep Shabbos? Amru loy. So the Rabbanan said to him, "Rasha Shabbat A, wicked one of the world. Is a man allowed to carry within his own courtyard on Shabbos?" Amru lahem, hey. He said to them, yeah. Amru loy. The upper worlds and the lower worlds are all part of the courtyard of a Kiddush Baruch Hu. Shnema, it says in the pasuk, Kiddush, 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 Hashem Tzvakis, Malay Chol Haaretz Kavadei. The whole land is full of the covet of Hashem. And they said to him, even if a man is going to do an aver, he's going to carry on Shabbos. Does carrying on Shabbos by definition necessitates moving from where you are to moving to a different spot? Right? Is that not true? That you have to move from where you are, from your position to a different position in order to carry on Shabbos? So the Rasha said, yeah, hey. So the Rabbanan said to him, Ksiv, it says about Sham, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the pasuk that we quoted earlier, Hashem said, is it not true that I fill up the heavens and the earth? And we know if Hashem fills up the heavens and the earth, so whatever is going to be moving around from Shemayim to Eretz, from one place to Shemayim to one place in Eretz, or Eretz to Eretz, whatever, all of that is considered part of Hashem, or part of where Hashem is. So Hashem is not, so to speak, moving from place to place. So you can't say that Hashem is sort of carrying on Shabbos. That's not called carrying. It's called staying in the same place. If I take something with my right hand and I put it on my left hand, I didn't move it, I'm still holding it. So whatever Hashem does, it's still in the reshus of Hashem. So you see in all these different midrashim that there's an idea that Hashem keeps Shabbos, and that's supposed to be an example for us that we're supposed to keep Shabbos. To not carry on Shabbos, that's the example we were speaking about specifically over here. But it's talking about all the Isurim of Shabbos. Okay, let's see one more point of it. Let's finish up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu beirach v'kiddush es Yom HaShabbos v'Yisrael einan chayavin ela lishmor l'kadosh es HaShabbos. Now we find another aspect. HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed and sanctified the Shabbos, and Klal Yisrael is only obligated to guard and sanctify the Shabbos. And we said that there's an Indian of Shamar and Zachar to keep from doing averas on Shabbos and to go out and actively do a mitzvah on Shabbos. So we said that Hashem not only was shomer Shabbos, he guarded himself from doing that which shouldn't be done on Shabbos, but he also would go out and his berach v'kiddush is on Shabbos. He would go out and actively bless and sanctify Shabbos. So Klal Yisrael shouldn't do that? Of course we should. Klal Yisrael is also obligated to be berach v'kiddush is on Shabbos. Mikano, from here, Chazal said, Kol mevarech al yayin b'leili Shabbos marichin lo yomav u'shneisa ba'olam hazeh. Anyone who makes a bracha on the wine on Leil Shabbos, which is the meaning of Zohar Yom Shabbos, Chazal tells Zachreo al yayin should remember Shabbos on the yayin. That's the meaning of Kiddush, make Kiddush on Shabbos. So any person who makes a bracha on yayin on the night of Shabbos, marichin lo yomav u'shneisa ba'olam hazeh, they lengthen for him his days and his years in this world, and they add to him years of life in Olam Habah. And that's what it is. The way the gears of the Bayis HaGadol you have on the bottom, it says, we lengthen for him his days and his years in Olam Hazeh, Uva Olam Habah. And it says, because it says in the pasuk, Kivi Yibriyu Machal Ba'olam Hazeh, V'yosif L'chashet Tzayim Ba'olam Habah. That's the medrash over here that Chazal are telling us. Therefore, a person makes Pashas, it means it makes Kiddush on Leil Shabbos, he's going to get a special reward on Olam Hazeh. Beliomi Izmir says, what's the Indian of special Indian of keeping Shabbos that you get Olam Hazeh? So this is that based on what we're going to say at the end of the parak next week, that it says in the pasuk, Kol Shemer Shabbos Mechalaloi, a person who keeps Shabbos from defiling it. I mean, he guards himself from defiling Shabbos. Chazal tells us, Atikir Mechalei El Mocholoi. Person who keeps Shabbos, Mocholoi, his averes are forgiven. So that's what it means. When a person keeps Shabbos properly, so so his affairs are forgiven, so then he's going to get a good portion of Olam Habah and Olam Hazeh. That's what Rabbi Yomi Izmer points out. Chaim Falachi says, he notes an interesting diktuk over here. It says anyone who makes a bracha on the yayin on the night of Shabbos. It doesn't say a person makes Kiddush on the night of Shabbos. So he says that it could be that this is even referring to not just making Kiddush, but also when you bench, Birkas Hamazon. So usually during the week, for whatever reasons, we don't usually make a bracha on a cup of wine when we bench. But Leil Shabbos Tafka, you should make a cup on a cup of wine. And he says some people specifically refrain from wine during the week, either because they can't afford it or because it's not good for their health. And he says, but these people, dafka on Leil Shabbos, there's the inyan that you should have special keshel bracha, and this keshel bracha will actually bring a person bracha, and it'll help them have a richus yamim, a richus shonim, and good things in Olam Habah and Olam Hazeh. That's one point that Rav Chaim Falachi makes. And the other point Rav Chaim Falachi makes brings us to an interesting discussion. He says that if a person makes Kiddush Leil Shabbos, so he gets Mesifin La Yama V'Shneisa B'Olam Hazeh, he gets special life and a special bracha for life. He says it could that's why there's a minhag. Some people have this minhag, Sfardim especially have this minhag. I think there's some Hasidim that also have this minhag, that when you make Kiddush, so when the person who's saying Kiddush says Savri, so other people answer L'chaim. So why? What's the inyan of saying L'chaim when you make Kiddush? Because that's exactly what we're saying, that when you make Kiddush, then you get Barichan L'Yama V'Shneisa, you get a special life, and they add to you. So that's the inyan of saying L'chaim when you make Kiddush. If you look in the Mefarshim, there's three basic other explanations of this inyan of saying L'chaim when you make Kiddush. The first one is like this. We'll say it like this. The Das Kenim in Parshas Shmini, when the Torah tells us Yain V'Shecher Al Tesht, that there's a prohibition of drinking wine before you go into the Beis Hamikdash and before you render a halachic ruling. So over there he says that the minhag is that when you make a bracha on the wine, or when you make Kiddush, so we say L'chaim. Why? Because we find that wine brings death to the world. How so? When Adam, one of the explanations we gave before, I think it was in Perek Yud Aleph, I think it was, one of the explanations we said of what was the Eitz Hadas, we said that it was wine. The Adam should drink from wine, and that wine brought death to the world. So we want to say that when you make Kiddush, you should dafka say L'chaim, that this wine is not for death, it's for Chaim. This wine is a good wine, not a bad wine. The Tamei HaMinhagim in Hilchos Shabbos Siman Reish Tzadik Gimel brings in the name of the Sefer Ateres Zekenim a similar explanation, that by Noach we find that Noach drank wine after the Mabul and ended up exposing himself, and then whatever, and he got castrated or sodomized or whatever, and then basically he gave a curse to Canaan because of this story. So we see that wine can bring curses. So therefore, when we make Kiddush, we dafka say L'chaim, meaning we're drinking this wine not as a bad wine that's going to bring a curse, but as a good wine that's going to bring life, L'chaim, to life. That's the Teres Zekanim brought in time Minhagim. A third idea is the brother of the Maral, Reb Chaim, the brother of the Maral Miprag, has a sefer called Sefer Chaim. He also says this idea that wine sometimes brings good things, it helps people become happy, it helps cheer people up, and on the other hand, sometimes wine brings bad things, it makes people sad, and it causes people to make to damage and do things that they regret. So wine wine can go either way. It can either cause good or cause bad. So it says that's why when you make Kiddush, you have to say L'chaim. You're trying to say that this wine is L'chaim. It's for good. It's good wine. It's a wine that's going to bring about life. It's not a wine that's going to cause death, cause destruction to the world. And the similar idea of Chaim Falachi in his Pirush on the Haggadah Shal Pesach, he has a sefer called Chaim L'Rosh. So over there in the beginning, by Kiddush, so he says that wine, we make a bracha of wine of Borei Priya Geffen. The word Geffen is the same letters as the word Negef. Negef means plague, and Geffen means the vine. So he says that the wine has sort of two attributes. It could cause like a plague, it could cause death and badness in the world. It could cause goodness. So that's why we dafka when you make a kiddush, you say l'chaim. You're trying to say that this is a good type of wine, not the bad type of wine. Al Kapar, these four explanations are basically saying that the wine could go either way, good or bad. So when you make kiddush, you want to say you're dafka making it a good type of wine. Right, that's one basic mahalach. The second basic mahalach is from the Abu Jaham. The Abu Jaham says, I think it's in Hilchos Brachos, I forgot to write down exactly where it is. The Abu Jaham writes that the halacha is that when you have wine, when you bring out wine in the middle of a meal, so the halacha is you don't have one person make the bracha and be mitzi everyone else. That's not what you do. Because if it's in the middle of the meal, people are eating. And if somebody make the bracha and everyone else will have to answer amen, so then the guy who might be eating is going to try to answer amen, but he's in the middle of eating, he'll choke and then it'll be bad stuff. So the halacha is when you bring out wine in the middle of the meal, each person makes the bracha for himself. But when you have the wine in the beginning of the meal, when nobody has eaten yet, so then you can have one person be mitzi everyone else. I'm not sure if you should have one person or you could have. I'm not sure exactly what the halacha is. But that's the way it is. So that's not the usual way of having wine. Usually they have the wine in the middle, not in the beginning. So when you have the wine in the beginning of the meal, like when you're making kiddush, so first you tell everyone savri. What does the word savri mean? So savri means think or listen. Pay attention. Listen, I'm going to be mitzi you. So pay attention. I'm making the bracha right now. Right? So they all answer, oh, l'chaim, oh, to life. Why? Because basically the way that Abu Jaham explains is that it's not supposed to be l'chayim, to life, but actually l'chayi, lamed ches yud yud, which in the lashon of the Gemara means yes. So he says, Savri, are you guys listening up to my bracha? And everyone answers back, yes. That's why you say not l'chayim, but you're supposed to say l'chayi. That's what the Abu Jaham says. So that's the second pshat why you say l'chayim by kiddush. My pshat is there's a little bit of a story to it. Yeah, I know. The Munkach Rebbe apparently came out very strong against this minig. He said, no, you're not supposed to say l'chaim. I'm not sure if he said it was a hefsek. I forgot exactly what his reasons were. In a few of his farm, he writes against this. He says, no, you're not supposed to say l'chaim. Dafka not to do it. And then somebody showed him a Medrash Tanchuma. This Medrash Tanchuma is brought in the Tamei HaMinhagim, b'shem Medrash Tanchuma Parshas Vayakel, and I wasted a lot of time trying to find it. It's not in Parshas Vayakel. It's actually in Parshas Pekudei. The Medrash Tanchuma says like this: that it used to be that when the Beis Din would try capital cases that involved the death penalty, so after they heard the case, then they would ask all the members of the Beis Din, what each person holds. So the way they would ask the question is they would ask him savri. Savri means think. I mean, what do you think, savri? And each dayan on the Beis Din would answer either l'chaim, to life, or l'mavis. Does this guy deserve to be killed, or does he not? He deserves to live. And that's how they would do it. L'chaim or l'mavis, l'chaim or l'mavis. Savri, he would say l'chaim, savri, he would say l'mavis, etc. And when they would actually go out and execute a person, so Beis Din would first have him drink wine, so the wine would sort of dull his senses, so he wouldn't feel as much pain when they do the Arba Mitzvahs Beis Din. So you see, the Indian of Savri and L'chaim has to do with wine. And as a zera to that, we're trying to show that when we drink wine by Kiddush, it's not the bad type of wine that has to do with killing somebody. This is L'chaim, this is a good type of wine. So somebody showed this Medrash Tanchuma in Parshas Pekudei to the Munkach Rebbe, and the Munkach Rebbe said, you know what, you're right, it's a good minig, and he stopped coming out against it, and he said, you know, I'm going to try to fix it in subsequent printings of my Sefer. Like my Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Lorner Shlita in Shmir Seguf VaNefesh Simin Nun Gimel, he points out that later printings of the Munkach Rebbe's Svarim didn't fix it, so it seems like he still came out against it, but he said he was going to fix it, but people didn't fix it. After he died, they didn't fix the printings of the Sefer, but he speaks about this at great length. It comes out that this L'chai is the source of the minig to say L'chaim by Kiddush. Another Kabbalah Sefer called Mavar Yabok in Maimer Beis Perek Lamed Vav, he also brings this Medrash Tanchuma. So you see that could be the source of this minig. Most Ashkenazim don't really do it. I think it's a Sephardi thing. I think some Hasidim also do it. And that's basically it. Okay, I think we'll stop over here. and we'll reconvene at a different time. Kol tov.